There are so many brands which slip under the radar, but also have the air of a forgotten dynasty. As it happened, a friend handed me this peculiar piece, and a few Google searches in, I was kinda hooked. What has happened to the brand in its 90 years of existence? Let's explore vintage and modern LORENZ. The initial company from 1934 by the founder Tullio Boletta wore a different name at first, La Regale. Therefore, one could argue that LORENZ, under this name, was actually established in 1938 in Milan, via Monte Napoleone. But who am I to disrupt their founding dates? The origin of the name LORENZ is seldomly explained, but it supposedly came from an acquaintance of Mr. Boletta from his time in Berlin, or someone he worked for there. In the first years, LORENZ was mainly known for another product, which had a big impact on the watch industry itself, namely for their patented cleaning and degreasing solution called TB, which was successfully in the market until the end of the 70s. But they also already sold Swiss watches back then, but had no proprietary model line of their own. That changed in 1951, when the first LORENZ models with Swiss mechanical movements came out. The next big and interesting step followed in the 60s, when collaborations with Aquastar and EDOX, both more well-known vintage brands, brought up some really interesting models, which one would not immediately associate with LORENZ. But now you do. I will focus on wristwatches mostly, but LORENZ was also known for table clock designs, which won them awards as well as international recognition, and are still or again available today. End of the 60s, they came up with a new logo, a stylized clock and modern font, which you will find on the most modern LORENZ watches to date. Confusion warning, there is also LORENZ India, with a winged logo selling quartz watches. No affiliation to the LORENZ we talk about here. But there have been some official sub-brands in LORENZ's history, like LORENZ and Bino. Anyway, in the 70s, LORENZ struggled with the quartz crisis, as was the name of the game for most mechanical watchmakers back then. They kept track by adopting digital jump hour designs like this one, called Direct Time, or their rendition of a bullhead chronograph, one of my favorites. To stay afloat, Mr. Boletta also acquired the Italian distribution rights for Casio watches, so no shortage of clever business decisions at LORENZ. The 80s were quartz powered, and the Neos line was a forerunner for LORENZ. Designed by George J. Zoden and Nathalie Dupasquier, they definitely look like the 80s in a nutshell. Funky and somewhat industrial. Again, with that line they were catering to the wrist as well as providing something to hang onto a wall and set on your table. I'll basically skip the 90s to focus on the 2000s and 2010er years, although the Neos line accompanied the brand well all over those decades, and looks pretty cool to be honest. But in 2016, the brand was purchased by the Leader Watch Company, which marked a relaunch, including new collections like the Gran Premio, and modern LORENZ covers a large range of watch models, encasing everything from quartz to affordable Miyota or Seiko movements, and also ETAs, like in my Aquitania from roughly 2010. Speaking of which, this is a great example of the more outstanding and fresh designs in my opinion. The Aquitania lineup first joined the roster in the early 2000s and consists of several very different models, which I will present after this piece right here. The name probably references to the Aquitania ocean liner, nicknamed the Ship Beautiful, which was also the longest serving express ocean liner in the 20th century. Based on the version of the Aquitania model line that I have, I'd recommend their build quality. It presents a nicely curved side profile, and it's a fully titanium tonneau-shaped case at 43mm in diameter. The front side with the brushed top and polished sides is enhanced by decorative screws, and a titanium 120 click dive bezel as well. I have it on the original rubber strap with a simple buckle and 2 signed watch band keepers. Not sure if there's a clever term for those in English, to be honest. There seems to be an original bracelet as well, but it is one of the rare instances where I visually prefer the strap over the bracelet. The bracelet looks a bit overblown with the rounded links. The screw-down crown with the modern LORENZ logo is guarded nicely and supports the 300 meters water resistance in total. The black dial has the faintest sunburst, but what drew me in the most were the blocky indices and hour markers, accompanied by the block design on the Rehaut with the minute numerals. Obviously, the numerals are fully loomed on the dial and are nearly overpowering the hands in the dark. Mine here was a bit scratched at the inner Rehaut, and also the handset does look a bit unclean under the macro lens. But to be fair to LORENZ, I have no idea who opened this watch beforehand or how the previous owner handled it at all. Aside from those minor issues, the watch itself proposes a great price-quality ratio. More on that later. On the back, a mildly decorated case back shows a boating knot, and inside, a trusty Swiss automatic ETA 2824 ticks away and provides a small date at 3 o'clock. Now, this exact model was also available with a blue dial, and under the Aquitania line, you can also find quartz models from the early 2000s, as well as chronographs or simply different dial versions. The newest Aquitania line is up to 1000 meters water resistant, but seems to merge a lot of different styles from other known models. What I do like especially is this shot of it with two different straps attached to one watch. Probably just for marketing reasons, because you can't order it like that. But that could be a trend waiting to happen, right? I kind of dig it. About the price, I got it for 350 euros, which is an amazing pre-owned price for any ETA-powered automatic diver, especially with a titanium case. Add the distinct design by LORENZ and you have yourself a winner, in my opinion. Do you own a LORENZ watch, and what are your thoughts on this one? Let me and others know in the comments. I think LORENZ has an intriguing history, solid build quality in the watch that I have right here, and always shows glimpses of ingenuity, which are mixed in with, let's say, very classical or heavily inspired designs, to be frank. Anyway, I wish them a happy 90th brand anniversary and look forward how LORENZ will evolve in the following decades given their extensive history. Thanks to each and everyone who ventures with me into the weird and wonderful of the vintage watch world. See you in the next one on the TiMEworn channel.